Hello, Heavy Things Lightly, also AKA, why are we talking about rabbits, Watar? That's the old school. We've morphed. I was reading about Robin Hood moving money from one part of the world and one type of human pocket into another. I think I might be doing a podcast to become Robin Hood. If you know, you know. But today, that idea morphed into me talking to, I said, I'm going to call Heather Pollington, world-class artist. She's worked on stuff like major Hollywood films, Mary Poppins Returns, Skyfall, Into the Woods. She's been working with Walt Disney and the Rings of Power and basically set the scenes, created the realities by creating the art necessary to identify, right, the key characters, and she created the images that you know in those films. Today we'll look at some of those images, but we'll have Heather and I would just talk about what it is. What's the narrative in England as per Orthodox Christianity? She's a convert. What's the narrative that we should attend to the most as this new world starts to rediscover the old? That's stuff we're going to talk about today on Heavy Things Lightly. Will you explain why you would go to Cornwall?
Okay, so if you live in England, obviously we're a little island and we have beautiful coastline. And for me, Cornwall is just a very beautiful place to go, but also it has a very ancient mythology, and it has, like I said, many saints. You can't move in Cornwall without stumbling on a town that's named after an obscure saint, and then you've got to look into them, find out who they are. It's very, very old world, in fact. I mean, some of the references are so obscure, no one knows the stories anymore, but it's just a fascinating place to be and incredibly beautiful.
Let's do that for a second.
Go on.
So, just to put a context for people, we got to know each other through this sort of artist crew. You guys adopted me because I throw parties.
That's
Maybe
right.
that's as simple as it is. And then you've been working with Jonathan Pageau, and you have a long history of being an artist. I think you know my dear friend and godson, Father Silouan Justiniano. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you run in these circles, and I think you have like X-ray vision on the kind of stuff that Heavy Things Lightly is about, our podcast. So I'll start with this. X-ray vision me something. Okay. You speak about visiting the saints, and you're an Orthodox Christian, correct?
That's right. Pretty new,
so
though.
You're just a nut in England. So you have this like a wispy way of saying, I went to Cornwall to see the saints. But I think 9 out of 10 Englishmen who went to Cornwall did not see the saints. I don't even think they know they're around. Do they know they're around? What are you seeing that other English folks won't see when they go to Cornwall?
I think that's very astute. That's true. The thing about Britain is it's got this hidden history. I mean, like I said, there's all these towns named after saints, but people just know the name. And I think they've forgotten that it was an actual person. And obviously since becoming Orthodox, I've been looking into the lives of the British saints, and trying to learn as much as possible and visit churches and holy wells associated with them. It's an amazing experience to do that because it's like this kind of hidden history that no one else really cares about, and you get to touch it. So
what are you finding when you go?
It's really difficult to describe. I mean, there's not much there sometimes, but every time I take my family to these obscure places, we'll be driving along the road. I'll be like, let's just turn off there because, St. Nonna or whatever, has a shrine or a well. And we go, and they're always the most incredible places. They're just, the atmosphere of them is always beautiful and serene. And we always have a great time on that trip, even though from the outside, it probably looks like something a bit strange or maybe boring to do.
Right.
The saints pick these places for a reason, and they're special places. We love seeking them out.
I have a story. We had a field worker for First Things. By the way, Heather might know this. I know you do. because you came on our podcast, you now get to come eat free food that supports our work around the world.
Oh.
And we'll do something special for you when you make it across the pond from England to our restaurant. We'll do something nice. So bring your family. Well, we'll talk about that. We might be meeting up with Martin Shaw in Canada, I think. But when I was in England with this cat that we hired he lived in 2 years in Georgian Republic. His name is Oswald. Well, that's his baptized name. We visited him to throw a supra, as we do for people who are joining First Things in the north of England. Actually, we went to Scotland because we went up to the monastery that's way up, and I'm forgetting the name right now. It's Father Seraphim up there.
Is it on Mull?
Mull, Island of Mull. That's it.
Yeah.
And it was at Kieran's Well. So I found one of these places like you were just describing, and it was in that little church with these very unique icons that they baptized Oswald.
Oh.
And then England came alive for me because I only know it as King Henry's place where he whitewashed everything.
Well, this was a frustrating thing when we met you at ARC because, all you guys flew in and we were all sat in that horrendous Excel Centre in London, which is like literally the worst bit of England that you can ever go to. And I was sat there going, if we could all just get in a van and like drive 3 hours, I could show you some amazing places. But unfortunately, we were trapped in southeast London. So I'd love it if you guys could come back and we could actually go somewhere beautiful because there's so many places.
There was a nice forest. There's a forest of souls that I actually, I enjoyed that trip. Here's one reason, and then weigh in on this, is because there is something going on, even in sort of secular England right now. Would you call this, I think one of your current sort of efforts in England is to do something like do another Reformation. Maybe that's the wrong word. It's more like a remembering. Yeah. Are people starting to remember in England?
It's
their
so
ancient
tiny.
roots?
I mean, we're talking about, in my group of, associates, we're talking about a handful of people really. So I don't know if it will turn into anything, but as someone who, because I worked in the film industry for many, many years, and part of that job is to kind of intuit what people are going to be interested in 5 years, kind of feel what the audience kind of maybe going towards. Mm-hmm. And so I developed a bit of an instinct for it, and I can see a yearning for it, in people. And even though obviously we, 500 years from the Reformation, and very, very secularized country now, it's still there in people. And, the few occasions I've had when I've, taken icons that I painted to present to people and talk to them about the process, the reaction is huge because they know that there's something that was lost. And they can't necessarily name it, but it's there. And, it's so, I'm just talking to the people here that are interested in it, and it may be 10 years away of being articulated in any kind of real form. But, I think we're starting the conversations and starting to think about what that could become. So, I'm involved in a couple of projects that are sort of starting to try to figure that out.
I want to hear about those projects, but I have a question. You just made me think of this. So there's some sensibility that you have as an artist that people wanted. You did and are doing, but you did a lot of work with Hollywood films. You guys go check out her website. Like, it's not just many, many films, 007 films, big Disney productions. But my guess is, as an artist, you had a sensibility to sort of, the spirit of the unseen. Could you see in your work that you were applying the iconographic ideas even in the secular work that you were doing for Hollywood? Like, could you translate the things that were deep inside of you, even into this work of these big, giant professional, multi-million-dollar engagements? Like, was it of use to have a soulful sensibility and an iconographic eye, even if you weren't quite Orthodox yet? It was clearly boiling up in you.
Yeah, that's a really astute question. So the way that I would describe it is, I had a sensibility, but I didn't know the source of or the origin of it. And then when I discovered Orthodoxy, I realized that sensibility actually maybe came from the church, or at least was mastered in its fullest form by the church, by certainly the medieval church in Europe, and then in the present day, the Orthodox Church.
Well, it feels like it. It feels like, so Andrew's going to pull up some of your scene, your set designs and things. They're going to be showing them right now, but it's from your website.
Okay.
And if you look at this stuff, guys, if you can see it, I'm not saying you were setting out as an iconographer, because I know that when was when did you convert as per your professional life?
Okay.
Were you in Hollywood at that time working as you converted?
Yeah, it's hard to remember when everything happened, but yeah, the move to Orthodoxy's kind of come in the last 5 years, I would say. I was only baptized like a year and a half ago, so it's very new that I'm official, but it's been a long kind of slow journey. But yeah, if to expand on what I was saying just before, is that the film industry, sorry, my husband just came. The film industry trains you to see things in a very holistic way. So at the center is a story and a script, right? So just words, you inherit that, and then you have to create a world. And my job is, like in set design, was to use all the available tools in the visual set to tell the story. So you've got this kind of story focused mind. And the other thing to say is that we design around the actors, so we're very human focused.
Oh wow.
And when I came into the church, I came back to the Anglican church about 10 years ago, and I just started attending sort of high Anglican liturgies, and started to understand that the church worked in a very similar way, that it was using, all of these elements to bring someone into a story. Ultimately, that's what happens when we go to liturgy every week. And then I got fascinated by the medieval church. I was thinking, where is this come from? This way of thinking. And then, like I said, that then led me into Orthodoxy, which I think is the sort of the most sophisticated expression of that's still around today in the modern world that we can access. So yeah, it's that holistic vision really, and the primacy of the human,
Did your, let's call it, the gift or the acquisition of the church in your life, did that make it harder to do the work that you were engaged in, or easier?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, as time went on, I think once I had sort of discovered this home in the church, I was keen to offer my skills, even though that was a kind of preposterous idea at the beginning, living in 21st century England and thinking that I wanted to make art for the church. And at the same time, the movies coming my way were kind of, I was finding it hard to reconcile this new, this new desire with the things that I was being asked to do. Like, I won't go into details, but there was one particular movie that, was not knowingly, but kind of subtly heretical. And once you have that, once you can see those things, you can't really partake in it anymore.
Right.
And so I knew at that moment that I had to make a move. You do get choice in terms of what you work on in the film industry, but largely it's like to do with availability, dates, what's in town, what's your team working on. You normally have a couple of choices, but sometimes you just got to take a job. And I just thought I can't be compromised anymore. So I'm going to have to do something crazy and really change my direction and see if there's a path. And at first it was very difficult because, you know, I was kind of naive about the religious landscape. And I thought that all Christians would respond well to the idea of icons, and they didn't. But after some searching, you know, I found Jonathan Pageau, I found Aidan Hart, and there's these amazing figures who were already established in that world. And, you know, I was able to form, friendships and professional relationships with them, and they could kind of guide me through, the process.
Was that part of how would you describe it, as a leap into a different world of art where you're not getting contracts from Hollywood anymore, right? Now you're sort of blazing your way as an icon painter. Does that sound right? Or you're trying, blazing your way sounds proud. You're attempting to enter a new way of going through life as a professional. Does that sound right?
That sounds right. I mean, yeah, it was a leap because it's like I said, it was kind of an absurd idea. And I think some people thought I was crazy. But there's a lot of similarities. I mean, you know, if we sort of zoom out, and I hope this doesn't sound crass, but if you're working in film, you're kind of dealing with secular icons as such, you know, like I was making stuff for Bond, Mary Poppins. And even though it's a secular context, like the fans really care about those characters.
Yeah.
Like they love them, right? And if you're responsible for, you know, managing the character, there's a responsibility there. You know, you can't go too far. You have to, it's quite conservative actually as an art form. And so when I started learning about iconography, I could see in some ways that it was the same thing, that you had a kind of stewardship. You know, there was, you know, maybe if you're painting a scene, you obviously can't just do whatever you want. There's an established, look, and, for that particular saint, and you have to honor that. So it's similar in a way. There's an attitude of service. You know, it's not like the fine art world, which is, you know, I have a vision and I'm going to put it out there on the world. It's like the world has a call and then you as an artist will answer it. And that's actually much more suited to my personality. I trained as a fine artist and I couldn't get on with the idea that I just had to make stuff that people would be interested in. And so, I went to the film industry partly because I wanted to serve a story, you know, draw for, you know, someone had a need and I could answer it in a visual way. And so I've always enjoyed work like that. That's a kind of visual challenge. And then, you know, meeting Jonathan and doing the fairy tale books was a similar thing. Like Jonathan had a vision and I was kind of able to hopefully, visualize some of that for him.
Could you, I know that people watching this have trouble with this idea that conforming, because as an icon painter, you're going to conform to the tradition, that there's some artistic freedom in the conforming. And I don't know that we easily understand it with our mind, but can you poke around in there with that idea that your expressions become as lovely and creative and free, but within a pretty strict set of rules, right? Somehow?
Yeah. I think it's that thing of, you know, people say, you know, if you seek Christ, you find yourself. And it's a little bit like that as an iconographer, you submit yourself to a tradition, and even through that process, your own voice comes through. I mean, you know different iconographers, you know, Father Silouan, like you can tell it's him straight away, but he's not intentionally doing that. Exactly. And that's the beauty of it. It's like, it's a limited art form. And I feel things that limit you, then it's a truer part of yourself because you're not trying to express it. You know, I said, it's difficult to describe, but
No, that was interesting. It's like the idea of the cavern or the sacred, where the bones of the saints lay under the church. There's something sacred about the thing that that you're not actually expressing, that gives your expression something like beauty. Not everything is out there, right? This is sort of the idea. You're conserving something as an artist when you're an iconographer that allows the true work to be done. I'm just basically channeling Father Silouan right now. I'm trying, but does that resonate with you that, you can still express things, especially if you have this beautiful private pearl of a place called the secrets of the church or the secrets of your soul? Does that help?
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult for me to say because I'm finishing my training with Aidan very soon, so I haven't allowed myself too much freedom. I've been, learning a discipline up until now, and I think that stage will hopefully come later as I keep painting. And obviously, Father Silouan is way ahead of me on that journey. But I think you're right. I think you can allow yourself, but I think it has to come with discipline and with knowledge of the language. You certainly can't do it at the beginning.
Right.
Because you've got this complex language and you really have to understand it, and you have to practice it for years until it becomes part of you. And then, like I say, things will come out inevitably, but you should never be trying to do that. I think it's a mistake to think that you're going to reinvent iconography, or you're going to, that's going to have, but if I think if you work in the right way, then, that could happen, but it will probably be a side effect.
Well, I guess I'm getting at the idea that there's something like, show us who you are. It's a kind of typical mantra in the schools where I've worked and when speaking to modern artists.
I tell you the way that I think about it, and this is what I always did in the film industry as well. Basically, everything that I do is based on tradition, but I'm selective about tradition.
Yes.
So if you look at the field of iconography, I mean, it's just vastly complex. There's so many different ways of doing things, but if you're working in 21st century Britain or America, some of those things are going to be too idiosyncratic. They're too mysterious. If it's from 14th century Russia, for example, your modern audience isn't going to react to certain things in a way that a 14th century Russian would have done. So if that language is idiosyncratic, you shouldn't necessarily use it just because it's historical and authentic.
This is helpful.
So I look at tradition and think, what chimes with me now is that there's something about the age that we're in. Every age is special, even though, we all think we're living in like some kind of dark ages, but every age has its gifts. And I feel like we understand, the culture we're in. And if I look at iconography, I can see the things that shine out to me. And I think maybe if they shine out to me, they may also shine out to a modern audience because we're attuned to it. And like I said, people yearn for things. You see trends 100%. In like contemporary illustration where people are kind of hinting towards something. They have they're attracted to it, they yearn for it, and then you can find the source of it potentially in the medieval world or in the iconographic world. So it's like, well, let's bring that out. Let's bring out the source, show it back to them, and then they go, oh, that's the thing, right? That's so at that point for me, it's like it's authentic and relevant.
You're really helping. My daughter, who is a jazz singer, speaks of jazz standards in the same way that an iconographer speaks of sort of this, the inheritance of, the icon, the way that, St. John stands in the icon, which is like all things start with the standard. It's very interesting the way this young jazz crew right now in New York and around the country, jazz has become sort of trying to bring jazz back. And in being a part of that on the periphery as a father of a kid doing it, I'm noticing that she speaks about jazz the same way that you iconographers speak about the icon, which is that I can't do anything but be the singer of this song. That's already going to be in there. But then my next goal is to make sure that I honor that which came before in the standard. And then you start to think maybe that's how everything works. Maybe like the story and being attentive to the inheritance.
Yeah.
To the narrative, the thing that's already been in existence before you jumped in.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how everything works. Everything is just an obedience or a willingness to be attentive to the narrative, to the sounds that have already been there, and then adding yourself to that narrative or to that flowing river, rather than imagining you're the source of the flowing river. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I was trying to describe in the film industry. You have to do that because the film and the franchise is so much bigger than you. You know, these things are, like I said, they're cultural icons. You can't just go and get in the way of that, because people, like fans, get angry. They're like, "What was that thing?" You know, that's like a betrayal.
Yeah, you're honoring the thing that. Yeah, by the way, which makes for a better movie, right? Isn't that why the Lord of the Rings got in trouble? Because let's just say the latest, I don't want to get you involved and embroiled in this, but there were just people, they went too far, perhaps.
Yeah. So I guess, again, maybe this applies to everything, but the absolute sweet spot is always, it's authentic. It honors the heritage. Right. And then maybe it takes the audience slightly to that new place. You know, that's the ultimate thing. So maybe at first you're going to be conservative, and then some kind of magic happens and you're able to reveal something new. But it's hard. It's hard to do that, and you have to be really careful. So
do you think in this same vein, we, as not as young children, but as something like 18, 20, 30-year-olds, do you think we moderns are in a process of sort of choosing our story and then worshiping the heroes of that story? Does that sound gross to you as a way of being? Do we have to choose a story, a narrative? Dostoevsky spoke like that. He's like, the Christian narrative's too beautiful. Like, why would you not want to be in that story of a God that gives his life for you? And do you think that's something we do? We choose a story, and then worship is honoring, you know, the truth of that story? Yeah,
I think so. I mean, you know, again, when I was in the sort of in the film world, you know, I think it was at the end there, I discovered Jonathan Pageau's work, and one thing he said to me was, the entertainment business is becoming more liturgical. And I could see it happening everywhere. It's like stuff that I'd worked on became like relics, you know, like maps or whatever that had been on camera. People were like, "Oh my gosh, I got to touch it," or, you know, it was crazy. And then I could see, you know, so yeah, I was working with these sort of, you know, fake idols, I suppose. And yeah, people, I guess if people are growing up without the church, you know, they are looking around for a story, and lots of young people are living in Harry Potter, and Star Wars is the classic one, obviously, and that's becomes kind of pseudo-religious. And it really came to a head with me it was about 2017, and I was working on a Disney film. It was a really beautiful film. I had a great time on it, but there was one particular set where the character was getting married, and we'd done it like it was in a fantasy land, so it couldn't be a church, but it was basically a church. And then at the front of the church, there was an altar. And my department, my designer, the decorator said, "Oh, Heather, you've got to put something on the altar." And I was like, "Well, what do we put on it?" And he said, "You know, something, you know," and this is the thing that, like, if you're in a fantasy world, you got to put something generic on, you got to put something like decorative and medieval. And it was at that point I was like, I can't do that. I can't put something else on an altar. Like, I want to work on the real altar. I want to be in the actual story. And that was a real turning point for me, where I just knew that I couldn't be in the fake world anymore. And I think that's a journey that potentially lots of people will go on, you know, when they realize that like Harry Potter's not going to answer your prayers, or, it's just not a real thing. And there is this thing that's real. And so, yeah, that was all part of my journey towards taking whatever I had learned in the film industry and trying to kind of bring it back to the church and, try to be useful.
Yeah, but you're so good at it. And now the church benefits from the skill, but you benefit from the life of it all, right? Like, you found yourself filled up in that way now, like spiritually. Is this whole journey of yours to Orthodoxy, is it bearing fruit?
I can't even tell you how much. I mean, it was almost like sort of I knocked on the door and the door kind of fell out of the frame, it was just like, so it's been amazing in terms of opportunities and just the generosity of the people in this world, and, how they were able to advise me and kind of help me along. It's still very new, by the way. I don't feel like I'm there yet, but I'm trying, and things are starting to happen. So,
for sure.
And definitely more than I expected at this stage. I mean, I just worked on a church assisting at Aiden Hart. So it's an interesting story in terms of what you're saying about the Reformation. So basically there was a church that was built about 100 years ago. It was built in the Romanesque style. And it's got a huge, it's very, very tall apse at the top, this white wall, because that's the way that churches look in England now. As you say, they were all whitewashed, but this was built in the style of, so it was completely white. And then Aidan got a commission to paint this apse in the Romanesque style of, the English 12th century. And he did this fantastic design, and I went up and we painted it together, and it was pretty much the nearest thing that I could say to kind of.
Do you have pictures?
I do. Yeah, I can send them
to me. We'll show them.
It's just amazing. And then while we were painting, the priest came in and did mass, and I was just like, well, this is what it would have been like, in the 12th century. Like suddenly I'm in that place, and I never dreamt that could be a reality in this country. But one priest decided to go for it, and we're really hoping now that based on these small steps, people will see how churches can be transformed through beautiful artworks.
Let's talk about that for a second in England. Historically, there was a whitewash. I mean, there was a type of iconoclasm, right?
Yeah,
for sure,
massive. About 95% of British art was destroyed in the 16th century. 95%. So that shows you what would have been there before, and what we've got left now is about 5%. People don't understand really about the Reformation. We still don't talk about it, but culturally it was kind of similar to something like the Russian Revolution.
Right.
Or the Cultural Revolution in China. It was enormous in terms of the impact that it had on people's lives. I mean, the center of people's lives before was pilgrimage. And overnight it was banned. So suddenly people couldn't do that anymore. It was actually the ending of a whole worldview.
Okay, let's dig down. This is my wheelhouse right now. And I love that you can sit there in England and have these eyes on this, because I think we underestimate. So, right, 16th, 17th century, right? This is when things are being wiped. It doesn't happen in 1 week. It happens.
No, it did happen.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's a spirit of that age. And that guy's, and Heather, you jump in here, but for our listeners, this is the old world, new world. The guys, that's the spirit that gets on the boats.
100%.
That comes to America. Or that goes to the Antilles, or that goes to Jamaica. Those are the spirits that lead to this thing we call the New World. It's a real spirit too. And I'll let you speak about it, but it's definitely a rushing wind, just like the Soviet revolution, and just like the French. It's a rushing wind. How do you see it in England? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting you say that, because it was interesting being at ARC with lots of Americans and understanding that you embody that spirit. And there's so many wonderful things about it. But from an English point of view, the most notable thing is, you know, you guys are so extrovert. You're so good at words, you know, and that comes from it's one of the gifts actually of the Protestant Reformation.
Absolutely.
You know, it's one of the amazing things. But the thing about England is we're like the trauma site or the graveyard that got left behind, right? And we're the country of compromise. We sort of, you know, the reformers left for America because they couldn't really model England in their vision. Mm-hmm. And so the Church of England was formed in this kind of compromise between Catholicism and Protestantism. And so it still is till this day. So it's very different being a Christian in England than it is in America. And we have a lot of baggage to deal with, but we have a beautiful heritage. And when I spend time with you guys, I just love the optimism and energy, and how easy you see it is to get things done. You know, like building a church in America is not a big deal, but in England, you know, you're up against a lot of resistance. People don't see that's something we would do now, you know.
The blade is double-edged, you know, because I as well notice when I'm overseas and then come home, especially places like, you know, real old school places where, you know, electricity is not even always around. When you come home, you really do see the American spirit nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be at peace, people, when Americans have guns. It's the most natural thing that American would have because it's an extension of their individual power. It's like, I get to extend my power into the world, and this is how I'm going to do it. And don't mess with me. That is so American. But it gets in the way sometimes, sister, because we tell ourselves our mythology is as if we've done this on our own. I got the gun on my own. I got the house on my own. There's a lot of my own stuff going on here, which of late for me, my sort of remembering is in the realization that narrative is like fundamentally not true. Like it's fundamentally not true as an Orthodox Christian. Like we haven't done anything on our own. There is no own except for maybe, as C.S. Lewis says, you can go to hell on your own. That's about it. But like you can't do anything on your own. And I think our reckoning is in that, is in coming to terms with this narrative that actually we are constantly the commune. Now, whoop, 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 there go the alarm bells, right? But we are in communion. There is no way out of it, like seed and soil and light and dark. There's no way out of this truth. But how do you recognize it without becoming a slave to the corporal? I mean, to the body.
I don't know. I mean, I think the one really interesting thing about ARC is that dialogue between the British and the Americans. I really do, because I think this is my intuition. Americans kind of yearn for a homeland or a kind of authentic culture or an ancient mythology. And so, you know, depending on your heritage, I guess a lot of people find that in places like the UK or, you know, Europe. And, you know, from the British side, we've lost that optimism. And one of the reasons that I'm doing bonkers things now is because I worked with Americans in hell knows Hollywood movies, and it like their ambition basically rubbed off on me, and they were just like, yeah, we want to do this, let's make it happen. And I was like, oh, it's possible. And then I talked to other British people and I was like, you know, we could just do this. And they're looking at me like I'm mad.
They're like, it's bollocks. Are you insane?
But that's what I love. Like, I love a bit of your energy. Like when you all come over, you know, I just like need to spend an hour with Neil deGrasse, and then I'm just like, oh yeah, I feel like I can go and do anything. So I think actually that's one brilliant thing about that whole ARC thing has brought about is that dialogue. That I think we each have something that the other needs or wants, or, you know, and through relationship, maybe we can kind of
Isn't that beautiful?
you know?
it's like really the answer to all the questions. Like, how is this country going to go forward with the red and the blue? You know, the Republicans. Well, guys, you're in community. You have to be together. You don't have a choice. So figure it out. Like, I still think we're going to fix it because our idea is going to be ascendant and then we win. There's always a win. Americans also love the win stuff.
Yeah, that never works. Well, look at, you know, the history of Britain as I just explained it. It's like when you've been around as long as we have, we realize the only way forward is compromise. You know.
But I tell you what's funny is there's a big movement in the United States. I got to hear your thoughts about this. Big, again, because I'm Orthodox, it seems big. But most people probably don't have any clue. But there's a huge movement among young men, 17 to 30, to just go all in and recover their Christianity in the Orthodox tradition by reading everything online, the Ortho Bros or whatever you want to call them. Yeah. And their favorite thing, because I'm on a lot of these strings with these guys, is to find the answers in the old world, but it's really just the Northern European old world, particularly England and Scotland. They love those narratives.
Yeah.
Love.
I've noticed.
What do you think about that?
I think it's interesting. I think, you know, you've got to be careful because even though I've just waxed lyrical about Cornwall, you know, we're not a theme park. We're like a modern nation with, you know, and it's been well documented. We've got a lot of problems at the moment in Britain. So I think it's, you got to be careful. I would say visit, you know, don't read it in books and romanticize, like come here. There's extraordinary things, as I've just said. And there's also the reality of 21st century Britain, which will probably not fit your, you know, your myth. But yeah, I would say travel, go and see, and also just how diverse, the UK really is. You know, Scotland is completely different from somewhere like Cornwall, but come and experience them. And, you know, I always think I'm not a book person. I'm not really a particular podcast person. I'm definitely a feeling kind of, I like to go and just stand in a place and feel a place, you know, and I think just, you need to do that. You can't read about it. You need to just come here and, you know,
that's why I'm so glad you joined me because I'm serious. Because when we were talking about it, I sense you're like, but why would you want me on there?
No, I do. I was like, why is John asking me on a podcast? I'm not one of those interesting podcast people. But yeah, okay. So the Ortho Bros, I'll tell you something interesting about them. So, like the UK press is just picking up on this trend. And, they were talking about it, you know, oh, there's this, and because it was kind of the left wing press in Britain, it's saying, oh, there's this phenomenon in America. It's kind of, they're Putin sympathizers. It's like far right stuff. It's anti-feminist, you know, all the stuff, all the cliches. And the sad thing for me reading that was that, you know, they're obviously attaching it to the Orthodox Church. And for me as a convert in Britain, I was like, I'm not happy about the way the Orthodox Church is being represented here. This is the interesting thing. It's like from the outside, people think that Orthodoxy is, you know, patriarchal, of course, because it is formally. And I think before I was Orthodox, I maybe thought that too, because all you really know about it is, you know, oh, there's Athos and women aren't allowed on Athos. And the turning point for me, and this is why I wanted to talk to you about it, was when I went to Georgia. And at this point I was an Anglican and I went in a church in Tbilisi and it was just the most beautiful place. And there was this incredible decorated silver icon of the Mother of God. And I walked in there, I was like, this is a church that adores women. Like I could just feel it. I was just like, how is this the case when there's all this, like what people see from the outside and then from the inside, it's just completely the opposite. And, you know, now I go to a Romanian parish and I can't always understand the liturgy. So I spend a lot of time just watching. And this is the way that it looks in my parish. It's like children are the most precious. The women support the children and the men support the women.
You got it. It's not complicated.
No, it's actually very, very simple. But this has been my, objective observation just every Sunday, the way they hold the children up. It's and they go first for communion. And then you've got the press saying, oh, it's this patriarchal thing. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
And I have, first of all, now we're friends forever, because there's somehow that the Georgians, what's really cool is, imagine there was no King Henry, and imagine that the church that, started in England was just still going. Yeah. That's Georgia.
I agree.
It's nuts. It's like,
I agree.
And what you're sensing in there is the hundreds of millions of prayers that have gone up into the ceiling there, and that all of them form something like the body of a woman. What I mean by that is the church, is Christ's bride. So let's take that seriously.
Yeah.
And it's the place it's the men who in some ways become in touch with, not their femininity, I don't like that. They become fully surrounded by the reality, which is love.
Yeah.
Right. And the womb, that we know the church is that womb, right? That Christ abides right there in the altar, in the middle, as if in a womb. So when that all is happening to you, I'm with you 100%. It's not a patriarchal event. It's hard to explain, but
you can't explain it. Like I said, I just had to walk in there and experience it. And then, and it was literally that moment that made me go, oh, orthodoxy. And then it was a kind of, I never thought that I'd be able to become, because I was British. I didn't see the way. But then it kind of unfolded, and there was like it was so strange. I live in rural England, and then one day, like, a little Romanian mission just landed like 5 minutes from my house.
Paul Kingsnorth is saying.
It was so weird. It was like, I thought I was going to have to like move to Georgia or Greece to become Orthodox, and then it like came to me. So, it like literally the next day I went to see the priest and said,
hey, I'm here.
I'm here. Yeah. And that was it. But yeah, I wished in a way, I mean, I suppose that would be one reason I might do a podcast, is just to be one of the voices saying, people, this is just not what you think it is. You need to.
I love you for that, because one thing I don't know about is the effects of this electronic world that I'm a part of, and not in such a way as, Jonathan's got, hundreds of thousands of folks, but something happens that's usually good when people like you risk this weirdness, and I'm willing to just keep going. I don't really think the internet's a great place. I have all these thoughts as a quasi philosopher historian guy, but mostly if I do something earnestly on here, like talk to you, it usually something good happens. I don't know how to explain it. And I'm just going to keep doing that, because I too question, like, why let's get back to instantiation, and, and let's put things in reality. Like, let's sit together and I want to do all that too. It may be that we have to do this until we do that. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
I think so. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I came to talk to you. I've really enjoyed it.
So let's end with this let's try to do something together in the, we've got this whole supra thing that we do, and let it jump the Atlantic, because it's kind of a thing right now here. I did 4 this week. Different companies are asking me to go Columbus, Ohio, Charleston. And what's happening is they're saying, like, whoa, when we're together at the table that way, you did one with me in London. Mm. They're like, wait, that's not a dinner anymore where all my people who at the company just don't really talk to each other. That's something different.
Yeah.
And then I always want to go like this. Hello, hello, hello. It's just liturgy, bro. You're just breaking bread. We're just doing it properly. Like, it's always been with us. So let's let this thing jump. That's odd, because it's on your side. The Georgians are headed your way. So from America anyway. So let's keep talking. And I don't know how it looks, but I'm going to get all you Martin's going to come in the spring of next year, and I'm going to invite you, and we're going to do something called Raven's Bread Art of Tamada out in near Seattle, Port Townsend.
Okay. So, I tell you what, if there was ever a chance to meet you in Georgia, I'd be there in a shot, because I would love to go back there. I just went that one time, and I reckon seeing it with you would be a whole other experience, because you know it so well.
100%.
Yeah.
Let's 100%. Here's the way to do it. Everyone listen too. Get 4 or 5 people, give me an email, send me an email, or call me, Heather, in your case. And then I'll just tell you when we're going to go, and you tell me when you can go. And then I try to look on my calendar and see what I can do. It's a part of my job. I'm not a travel agent. I have somebody that does all that. But between the 3 entities, your group, me, and my friends, we can figure it out in a hot second.
That would be
the
amazing.
Other way to do it is call me up, Heather. I'll tell you when I'm going. Like, in other words, 2 days I'm going.
Okay.
It's far though. How's your back? Oh,
it's far for me. Like, it doesn't feel far, but I think we went via Istanbul, and then it was another like 2 hours on from that. It's like, wow, it's really far east.
Yeah.
But it was
That's
worth
the magic
it.
of the place. It's not really Europe, but kind of is.
Yeah. It's
it's
really
Christian, but all right. I will see you soon. You are wonderful. And guys, Andrew hopefully showed some pictures when we do the cut, but Heather, your work is really fantastically, amazingly interesting. So if anything else, we'll put links. People can come and find your work online. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Peace to you.
It's been great. Cheers.
Yeah. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Heather's too nice, actually. You can tell she's thinking about her place in this world of speaking about orthodoxy, which I love. I love when people are humble and hesitant, unlike myself. But because I'm not humble and not hesitant, then I create a space for someone who is, as long as I listen. And so you guys can tell me if I did that. And sometimes I don't. Okay. Have you become a monthly donor? Take $10 and then let it flow through the electronic airwaves, through the interwebs, into the pocket of one of our field workers who is assisting local visionaries in their quest for a magnificent and wonderful life. In other words, we find people around the world who are badass, and we help facilitate, facile, to make easier, to make something very easy in the French, facile, which I think is the most beautiful way of helping. It's like your uncle, when you were 23 and you're like, I really want to do this. Your uncle's like, I don't know, it sounds kind of crazy, but let me help you with that. That's us. The difference is we go live in, say, Mozambique and get some malaria, maybe some typhoid comes our way. And what happens is when we do that, we get close to the people who are forgotten. And those people still include people who are really good at changing the world, i.e. the world they live in. And we should facilitate those kind of people. And that's what we do at Things First. First Things. I really should have renamed it because it gets mixed up with the magazine. The magazine came first. Whatever. But we might still be here in 5,000 years because of the restaurant. Well, restaurants don't last. But our restaurant might last because it's filled with a spirit of goodness. Come visit us in Greenville at the restaurant. Or here, watch Nicola. Should we play the ad here? Sell your stuff on our eBay store with Nicola. Right here. Play it, Andrew.
It's finally warming up. The sun is out, the air is crisp. Spring must be any day now. Overwhelmed with that one closet full of junk? Have you almost been eaten by your clutter? It's time to finally go through those boxes and storage you've been neglecting. You'll be surprised what you find. Instead of throwing out these used items, you can donate them to us, First Things Foundation, in 5 easy steps. We've partnered with eBay Charity to list your items for 100% donation when purchased through our storefront. First, find the items you wish to donate. Step 2, take 2 to 5 pictures of your item. Step 3, email me, Nico Heers, at first-things.org. This is where you can include as much information about the selected item as possible, including the year you originally bought it, worth, product type, damage if any, and size. Don't forget to attach those pictures you took earlier. Once you've sent the email, you can sit back and relax. We'll list your item for you and be in communication with any possible buyers. Once it's purchased, we'll follow up with an email and prepaid shipping label for you to attach and send your item off. Step 5. Package it up, attach the label, and drop off at your local post office. With those easy steps, you've not only cleaned out your closet, but you've contributed in assisting local visionaries in their quest for a better life.
Bracket. See, you can easily give your stuff away. There's a way for you to participate. You want to go on a trip? Call me. We can go. 6 weeks in the field? You want to go get credits for college or something? You want to just take a weird, crazy vacation for 6 weeks? Call me. We have a field school run by Brandon Meal, and he's wonderful. Our first 3 students are going in 2 days. First Things Foundation Field School. We got lots of ways to get involved. We want you involved, but monthly donors make my day. Put the link, Andrew, and much love to all of you. This is Heavy Things Lightly on a summer day in July, and that was Heather Pollington. Peace.